Well, Season of the Witch comes to a close tomorrow, and it's been a season full of ups and downs. As always, this season feels a little bit different, with extremes on either end of the scale. On one hand, we had one of the best stories in seasonal content for a long time. On the other hand, player sentiment and player count is an all-time low, and Bungie have laid off 8% of their staff. Well, today I want to take a final look at Season of the Witch before we wave goodbye, as we look forward to what's coming next for Destiny 2. Well, without further delay, let's dive right in. So first of all, let's have a look at the story. So this season, Eris Morn, she became a hive god with power rivaling Xivo Arath and Savathûn. Immaru, Savathûn's ghost, would play a crucial role, passing on Savathûn's messages to us in what appeared to be Savathûn manipulating us from beyond the grave. Ikora spent some of the season doubting Eris, however, Eris proved to be able to handle the pressure, with a wide-eyed drifter supporting her from the sidelines. Eris instructed us, the Guardian, to gather tithes for her, to essentially power her up as we search for the way to get into the Traveller's Portal created by the Witness. Or Eris Morn would go on to break Xivo Arath's connection to her throne world, would resurrect Savathûn and then instantly kill her once again to gain the ultimate hive power, only then to turn her back on the power in favour of weakening Xivo Arath. It was a story-rich season, one of the best for a long time, regarding the narrative. While the story content itself was good, the method of telling the story remains quite tired. The formula would be go to the helm, speak to an NPC, go to the Hollow Terminal, receive another message, go somewhere else, pick up another message, do an activity, get another message. This is a well-trodden path for Destiny 2 seasonal content, and to be honest, we are due for a change. Next up, let's have a look at activities. So, activities this season were pretty good. Savathûn's Spire had us climbing a new area of Savathûn's throne world in a multi-part encounter filled with a variety of enemies, with secrets to uncover each week due to the Deck of Whispers, which added an element of deck building into the activities. Altars of Summoning was a Court of Oryx style activity, with players taking on different encounters in a hub world connecting all the different areas. And then later on in the season, we had the Imbaru engine, and that saw us solving puzzles, would ultimately reveal the 15th wish, which came as a major shock and set up the events of next season. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the season, by the end we would have discovered the 15th wish, I wouldn't have believed you. Well, next up, let's have a look at the loot. So the loot this season saw the introduction of seasonal weapons as always, but the set of weapons were a little bit different. On paper, they shouldn't have been very good, but they felt very good, with the hand cannon being a great example of that. The X-Dirus was introduced as the seasonal exotic weapon, similar to a Hive Knight's weapon, and finally, we could live out our fantasy of becoming a boomer. Mothkeeper's Wraps, Pyro Gale, Gauntlets and Briarbinds were added as exotic armour, with Briarbinds being the pick of the bunch for this Warlock. Well, next up we had the returning raid. So Crota's End returned this season. It was very fitting, given it was a Hive-focused season. Crota's End had become a meme in many raid groups, but Crota was back to show he wasn't messing around in the world's first race, with many teams shocked at the level of challenge. It was particularly pleasing to fans who wanted more of a challenge after a lackluster Root of Nightmares raid, which had the largest Day 1 clear rate ever. Solographo and his team were back to claim the world first in 5 hours, 50 minutes and 12 seconds. So Crota's End Challenge Mode was the lowest success rate Day 1 experience in 4 years since the Garden of Salvation, with just 3% completing the race in 24 hours. Well, next up we had the event. So Festival of the Lost was back again this season, but to be honest, it was disappointing and it had little change. Haunted Sectors were back with added difficulty. Personally though, I didn't really play much of Season of the Lost this time around, as my appetite for Destiny 2 events sure has dwindled. Well, next up, PvP. So this season we had the announcement of the PvP Strike Team from Joe Blackburn, plus news of a map pack coming to Destiny 2 sometime in 2024, and it looks like today that's actually been confirmed for May 2024, so that is good news. PvP has been neglected for such a long time, and now it's finally looking to get some love. So Checkmate came to Destiny 2 this season, which is one of the most positive impacts on Destiny 2 PvP for some time, with many players returning to try it out. Also, we've got plenty of balancing. We've got a rework coming to comp as well. Trials has got improvements next season as well. So, whisper it. I think things are looking up for PvP in the short and the medium term. Well, next up, we had the crafting. So this was probably one of the craziest bugs that we've ever had in Destiny 2. So word started to spread on the 15th of September as Cheese Forever made a video. And it started with exotic weapons. So Dead Messenger, you could take the exotic perk Trinary Vision and place it on a legendary weapon. Then things ramped up a notch when players figured out how to apply aggressive shotgun frames to auto rifles, which would essentially dish out shotgun level of damage on an auto rifle rate of fire. So you had the Imperial Decree mixed with the Amit AR2, and that was a really, really popular combination, allowing a team of 3 Guardians to breeze through almost all content in the game. Grandmaster Nightfalls, raids, exotic missions, no enemies were a match for these weapons. Trials of Osiris went live around a similar time the news started to spread like wildfire, and many expected Bungie to cancel Trials. And many of the people have been looking forward to Trials at that weekend because Igneous Hammer was returning. However, Guardians soon realised the crafting bug was going to be a hell of a lot of fun, and everyone waited with bated breath to see what Bungie would do. Would they cancel Trials? Guardians were being one-shot from across the map, and PvP had turned into a killing field full of dead Guardians. But would Bungie do the unthinkable and roll back the game? No, they did something very, very unexpected indeed. They let us play with it for the weekend. Bungie said have some fun in a tweet, and they're effectively saying go out there, use the weapons and go crazy. It was just like your parents leaving the teenagers in the house for the weekend, going away and say, well, just have a massive party. And, well, we did party in Destiny 2. We partied all weekend long. Bungie then confirmed there'd be no rollback, and that meant players could keep the loot that they earned. For example, many Guardians have been farming Grandmaster Nightfalls for their Godroll Warden's lore. Others have been farming dungeons for Artifice Armor. More Guardians have been farming raid bosses for exotic loot. It was absolute chaos for a weekend, and it was a whole load of fun. Thankfully, Bungie got the bug back under control after a few days, and they also released an emblem to commemorate the event. But it was an absolutely wild time in Destiny 2 for the weekend. Player numbers went up hugely as well, so thousands of players who left the game came back and had a whole load of fun in Destiny 2 for that weekend. It was a really, really good time. Well, next up, we got a funny one. It was the Destiny 2 showcase. So the showcase kicked off the season. It was right at the start of the season, and it seemed to be well received at the time. But shortly after, the backlash started, with less fans than normal pre-ordering copies of the final shape. Normally the showcase would be the place where Bungie would bring the hype, but this year it felt a little flat. They talked about the final shape, they talked about Season of the Witch, they even talked about the next steps for Destiny 2 with episodes. Bungie are doing away with their 4 seasons per year and moving to a 3-episode structure, which are going to have more standalone stories, as Bungie looks to introduce a new saga following the end of the Light and Darkness saga with the final shape. With the end of the season, the bad news just kept on coming. So Bungie laid off 8% of its staff in October. As well as the layoffs, Jason Schreier confirmed the final shape had been delayed from February to June 2024, and that was actually confirmed today by Joe Blackburn himself. The effect of this delay to June 2024 means our final season in the Lightfall DLC is going to be 7 months long. I think it's about 190 days, which takes it to longer than the season that we got before the Witch Queen, and that pushes back the start of the episode's narrative framework. Delays aren't necessarily bad. It means Bungie has had a hard look at the content and said, well, that isn't good enough, or isn't ready, and therefore it needs more time. Jason Schreier also reported revenue is down 45% against projections for the year at Bungie, and Bungie CEO Pete Parsons put the poor performance down to poor player retention following a lackluster major expansion in Lightfall and less than expected pre-orders for the final shape, the upcoming DLC, which is also the final expansion in the Light vs. Darkness saga. Bungie staff were told that player sentiment is at an all-time low, which has been flagged to leadership in the months leading up to the layoffs. Staff wanted to turn things around, and work on features to bring back Destiny 2 fans. Well, at the time of writing this, player numbers are at an all-time low, with average players at 32,000 over the last 30 days, compared to a high in March of 2023 at 135,000. Things have been on a steady decline since the start of the year. That puts an emphasis on Season of the Wish, and Bungie really need to pull an absolute blinder to recover for the final shape. So I think this quote from Paul Tassi really sums it up well. So internally, no one is really blaming Sony for this, even management. Some employees were told that if the Sony buyout did not happen, with the current Destiny 2 performance, the studio itself would have been in jeopardy if they were still independent. Well, that certainly puts things into perspective, and while I may be unhappy with some of the seasonal content, for me, Destiny 2 still remains a great game to play, albeit a little bit more casual than I have played it before. I still enjoy dungeons, raids, creating builds, playing PvP, and most importantly, making videos for you all out there. We've hit points in Destiny 2's lifecycle before where it felt like an important moment, but none more so than this moment right here, where it feels like Bungie has to turn in a 10 out of 10 season leading up to the best expansion they've ever released. Otherwise, it could be curtains for Destiny 2. As I was writing the script for this video, Bungie did release a short update, and this one is from Joe Blackburn. It's quite short, so I'm going to read the whole thing here. But Joe says, "Hey everyone, we're going to keep it short and simple. The final shape needs more time to become exactly what we want it to be, so we're moving its release date to June the 4th, 2024. The final shape is the culmination of the first 10 years of Destiny storytelling, and for Guardians everywhere, the countless hours spent together. We want to honour that journey, so we're taking the time we need to deliver an even bigger and bolder vision, one that we hope to be remembered and treasured for years to come." Naturally, this change brings up questions about our upcoming release calendar. Season of the Wish begins tomorrow and will extend until the launch of the final shape in June. While the majority of the content and the narrative for Season of the Wish will run from late November to February as originally planned, the team is adding new content available for all players to jump into until the launch of the final shape. In February, this will include new weekly progression-based quests called Wishes, and the launch of Moments of Triumph with unique rewards. Next, we're moving Guardian games up into March with a refreshed focus on class versus class competition. Then, beginning in April, we're going to be delivering a 2-month content update available to everyone called Destiny 2 Into the Light, which is going to prepare players for their Guardian's journey into the Traveller. All of this is in addition to the ongoing efforts from our PvP strike team, including 3 new PvP maps dropping in May. We know you're eager to get your hands on the final shape, and in that sense, delays aren't fun. For our part, we're excited to have the extra time needed to bring our vision for the final shape to life for all of you. We're looking forward to sharing much more in April, including all new gameplay to showcase the significant content additions currently in development. Thank you for reading and being on this journey with us. Well, really intriguing stuff there from the Destiny 2 dev team, especially the Destiny 2 Into the Light. That's going to be available for all players, and I wonder what that is going to be. It says here it's going to prepare players for their Guardian's journey into the Traveller. So let me know down in the comments what you think about that. Let me know what you think about that extra content, and what do you think about that delay to the final shape. Well, that is it for today for the review of Season of the Witch. Let me know what you think down in the comments of the Season of the Witch. All in all, I thought Season of the Witch was pretty good, although there seemed to be a cataclysm in the middle of the season, with Bungie laying off staff, player sentiment at an all-time low, player counts at all-time low. Well, it just seems to have gone a little bit wrong for Destiny 2, but to be honest, I am convinced they're going to turn it around, and I think the final shape is going to be really good. Let's all just survive the Season of the Wish first, make it to the final shape, and I think it's going to be a really killer expansion. Well, that is it for this review of Season of the Witch, and as always, thank you so much for watching or for listening. Well, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you real soon.